All right, good evening, everybody. Larry Krueger with you on Niners Nightly. Welcome to a Friday edition of Niners Nightly, and we got a great hour for you. The great John Chapman's going to be in the house. He's fantastic, and we're going to break down Niners Seahawks top to bottom. You're going to enjoy John Chapman. He is absolutely fantastic. But let's share a few thoughts on the matchup here off the rip on this Friday. Hope everybody's having a fantastic Friday, getting ready for week one in the NFL. The Niners, at least, to get going on Sunday with the rest of the matchups in the league. Of course, it's a week one. You got Thursday football, Friday football, and then, of course, you got to wait till Sunday for the 49ers. But let's talk a little bit about the matchup. Let's start with the Niners on offense. I think this is a real opportunity for the 49ers to help their defense by playing complementary football. We don't know the status of Christian McCaffrey. It's probably going to be a lot of Brian Robinson, it sounds like. It might be Brian Robinson and Isaac Guerendo. It might be Brian Robinson, Isaac Guerendo, Jordan James. Those are really your options. You also might see Sincere McCormick activated off the practice squad. I think that's definitely a possibility. But it's going to be interesting. Can the 49ers run the ball and protect their young defense and shorten the game? Instead of having a 12 possession game, have more of like a 7 possession type game because you have long extended drives, and protect your young defense with complementary football by playing complementary football. So whether CMC is in there or not, I think it's important for the 49ers to win the time of possession and play complementary football and protect their young defense. And I think it's going to take a coordinated effort this year because they don't have all the horses. They don't have the most incredible roster at every angle and every position group. So you're going to have to play sometimes complementary ball, and that means dominating the clock, running the ball, keeping your offense on the field, keeping your defense on the sidelines. So I think that's going to be interesting. Can the 49ers run the ball on the Seattle defense? And then, Jawan Jennings, what can we expect at receiver from any of the Niner receivers? I mean, Jawan Jennings hasn't practiced most of the summer. Ricky Pearsall has a real nice 2-game stretch, but that's all he's drawing upon. Marquez Valdez-Scantling has only been here for a couple weeks. Sky Moore has only been here for one extra day than Valdez-Scantling. Jordan Watkins is a rookie. Russell Gage has been with the Niners all summer. He's probably the one veteran with some who can provide some consistency there. But who's going to step up? How many snaps can JJ play? Can Ricky Pearsall free himself open against a really good young secondary? Valdez-Scantling, Gage, Watkins. The Niners were 32nd, dead last year in wide receiver separation. Can they get separation? That's going to be a big one right there. Can the line block? Can the receivers get separation? Can the 49ers play complementary football? Can Brian Robinson have a big first day, possibly in a Niner uniform, and kind of carry the day? So lots of questions on the offensive side, and the Seahawks defense is a really good defense. I would say this is probably one of the better defenses in the NFC. You say, well, what makes them good? They're really good inside. Byron Murphy was a first-round pick. He's got great movement ability, and he's a load inside. So's Jaron Reed. He's a big, hulking run defender. Leonard Williams, very active defender, has been great since USC. He's good in a lot of different fronts, and he's been really good in this defense. They picked up DeMarcus Lawrence, and they also have Derek Hall from Auburn. Boye Mafe is a speed rusher off the edge. They got Yeshena Nwosu. So they've got some big-time edge rushers. Inside, Tyrese Knight and Ernest Jones the fourth, give them a lot of speed. And, you see John Schneider is really good at building this thing up. He picked up Chris Paul off waivers. He picked up Chaz Surratt from the Niners at the end of camp. So got a pretty good linebacking core, and then the secondary is really good. I mean, Julian Love is some tremendous player at strong safety. Every time I see him play, I think he's one of the best players in the league. Kobe Bryant won the Thorpe Award in college at corner. Now he's playing free safety. You got Josh Jobe, the new starter at left corner. We'll see how he does. But Reek Woolen is a gigantic corner, and Devin Witherspoon is their nickel He's a former first-round pick. They picked up Darion Kendrick from the Rams. They also drafted Nick Emanwari, who's just a jumbo safety who can really run, and they're going to use him. So I think that it's going to be a real challenge for the 49er offense to do anything against it. It's going to be a challenge for the receivers to get open. It's going to be a challenge for the offensive line of the Niners to block this defensive front. I think the Niners' best chance to win this game is to run the ball effectively and pass it short effectively and somehow move the chains, get a lead, and maybe get a turnover or two. I think that's their ticket to success. This game, this could be, this Seattle defense could look like way, way too much if the Seahawks get a 10-point lead, 14-point lead, and they can, DeMarcus Lawrence and Boye Mafe and all these guys can pin their ears back, and the secondary can be over-aggressive and that kind of thing, and overplay things. It could be a suffocating kind of painful performance or painful day at the office for the 49er offense. So run the ball, stay ahead of the chains, don't make mistakes. Brock takes care of the ball. Feed Kittle, feed Pearsall, run the ball, dominate the time of possession, and win the game offensively. I think that's what I'm looking for on the offensive side of the ball. All right, let's jump over to the Niners on the defensive side of the ball, because defensively is where the 49ers are really, really a question mark. I don't know what we're going to see. The front's got Nick Bosa, but lots of question marks after that. The linebackers have Fred Warner, but a lot of unknowns after that. The secondary has Demo Lenore, but a lot of young players back there. So we don't know what this defense is going to be. And anybody who tries to tell you they do know, they're wrong. I think Robert Saleh doesn't know exactly what he can expect to get. C.J. West, Alfred Collins, Mikael Williams, Nick Martin, Marquis Siegel, Upton Stout. These guys may all play significant amounts of snaps, and they're all rookies. And sometimes rookies take some time to adjust. And, it's how many snaps can they play? It's going to be a different play speed and a different intensity than they've ever played with in their life. And how do they make that adjustment? There are a lot of busted plays on defense. Can the Niners get pressure with their front four? Or does Robert Saleh have to dial up pressure? I think that's going to be something interesting to watch. And then if he has to dial up pressure, does he have a bunch of exotic blitzes? Does he use Mikael Williams as an inside rusher? Do they go to a 5-man front if they're getting gashed on against the run? And then in the secondary, who starts opposite Jason Pinnock? Is it going to be the rookie Marquis Siegel? Is it going to be the veteran Jair Brown? The one thing about defense, it really doesn't matter who starts. All these guys are going to play. And I think you're going to see a liberal substitution up front. You're going to see all these guys: Sam Aquinu, Jordan Jefferson, Robert Beal, Gross-Matos, Bryce Huff. Everybody who's up is going to get run on that defensive line. I expect Bryce Huff to really have a big game. I do. I expect him to be a very good player. I also am looking for Darrell Luter to continue to get better. It's a big, talented corner who made the roster. Looked a little rusty early on. As things went, I felt like Luter looked better in every game that went by, and I'm expecting him to make another stride here. So he's a big, young, talented press man corner, and let's see if he can step in and really help this team. They're going to need it. Cooper Kupp, Jackson Smith-Njigba, going to be very, very challenging covers. If you look at the Seahawk offense, I think the key is put a lot of pressure on Sam Darnold and see if he throws you a couple interceptions. And when he does, when he throws those 50-50 balls, catch them, catch them. They're going to try to run the ball. Seattle last year was the 28th rated rushing attack in pro football. So they brought in Clint Kubiak to be the OC, and they have put a new emphasis on running the ball, and they've run it for over 5 yards a carry in all 3 of their preseason games. Kenneth Walker, K9, they're going to run him. He's their starter. They got Zach Charbonnet. They got George Halani. Darnold obviously is got a really strong arm. He can beat you deep. They've got a really good receiving tight end in this rookie Elijah Arroyo. It's going to be a very tough cover. And then there's no more DK Metcalf, but you got Cooper Kupp from the Rams in the slot, and you got the rookie Torrey Horton and Jackson Smith-Njigba. I'm looking forward to Lenore against JSN. The winner of that battle may wind up winning the game. And then the debut of the 49ers brand new special teams unit, 32nd in the NFL last year. They're bound to be better. All right. I've done enough talking. Let's do this. Let's take a quick time out, and we're going to come back with the great John Chapman in the house. And we will break down this game top to bottom with John Chapman next. It's Niners Nightly on a Friday on the Sports Leader. All right, joining us tonight on Niners Nightly to chop it up and talk about week 1 in the NFL, the Niners on the road against the Seahawks at Lumen Field. Supposedly over half the crowd is going to be Niner fans, and this guy's going to be there as well, and it's the great John Chapman, who's joined us a number of times already this year, and he's with us again on the Yuma guest line. John, good to see you, man. How are you?
Man, excited. Yeah, with football being this close, it's like, all right, we've got about 4.5 months of just straight football, NFL every week, week in and week out, and I couldn't be happier. And the way that it starts out, Larry, that's the crazy thing. You're starting out division opponent on the road. Yeah, question marks at wide receiver that's starting to get answered. You got rookies everywhere. Everybody's starting to get healthy. You're going to find out real quick exactly what this 49ers team is made of week 1.
No question. What we're going to find out right away is, what does this wide receiver core look like with Juwan Jennings? Something we really haven't seen all summer. Jennings did sign. Shanahan said he was limited in practice, and he will be limited in this game. What do you expect? Define limited? I'll say this: he looks good on the practice field, John. He's moving well. He's not grimacing. He's not clutching the calf. He's not massaging the calf. It's almost as if he didn't have a calf injury. Think about that.
Weird.
Weird how that goes. It's amazing when you rub, $100 bills on a calf, how much better it feels. But the Niners extended him. They gave him $3 million. They made a long-term offer. He didn't want to do that. They're going to continue to negotiate on a long-term extension. This is their guy. They want him here long-term. But what can we expect, do you think, from him in week 1?
I think you have to kind of temper your expectations with Juwan Jennings. And it's not so much a Juwan Jennings problem. You saw this with Brandon Ayuk. You even saw it with Bosa a few years ago, Debo a few years ago, even Trent Williams last year. Whenever players miss almost all of training camp and preseason, it takes a while to get back into that football shape. So for the fantasy people out there and stat watchers and all that stuff, don't pay attention to so much Juwan Jennings getting, 6 receptions for 80 yards and a touchdown. I don't think you can expect that. But what you can expect is the physicality that Juwan Jennings brings to the 49ers offense and the run blocking area and third down conversions. That is what is going to be valuable that he brings. But he's not going to be the first, second, or third target in progressions most plays out there. That's going to be Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and Ricky Pearsall. That's what the offense is going to evolve around, and it's going to take Jennings time to get up to speed. But Jennings has gotten players like Tyreek Woolen, who's the number 2 corner for the Seahawks, benched multiple times against the 49ers because of the physicality. He's one of those height, weight, speed corners out of UTSA, the Fighting Roadrunners. But physicality that Juwan Jennings brings is unmatched. Now, guys like Devin Witherspoon, they're prized kind of defensive back. He can match Juwan Jennings. They're both kind of, go at it, dog mentality. But I want Juwan Jennings to bully Tariq Woolen, run plays, pass plays, everything. Just go out there and just fight and tear away kind of that fighting spirit for the Seattle Seahawks defensive backs. That is the expectation, and that is what you can expect from Juwan Jennings, number 15, out there week 1.
UTSA, by the way, blowing up. I mean, Spencer Burford, Sincere McCormick, Tariq Woolen, that's a nice little representation from that relatively small program. Let's talk a little bit about the Niners offensively. I heard Tim Ryan the other day say, hey, you know what? I think it's time for the 49ers to play a little bit more complementary football, and it's really going to be the priority is going to be protecting the young defense. So, I look at this game and, I'll just say this. I'm not like Mr. Gambler and I don't have betting angles. I don't have my platinum 5-star pick or anything like this, but just looking at this purely from a football standpoint, I see Seattle looking to rebound from their horrendous rushing attack last year. They were 28th in rush offense last year. They've been great running the ball in the preseason. They're going to run it a ton. I think the Niners might with the receivers out, have a conservative ball control, protect your defense, dominate the time of possession kind of a plan as well. It would not surprise me if both these teams wound up with like 7 or 8 possessions in this game instead of like 11 or 12 or 13 like you see in some games. I like the under in this game. I think it's a solid underplay. How do you see it?
Man, you would be making a lot of money year in and year out if you bet the unders the first 2 weeks of the season. And if you bet, take the points early. You saw in college football, right? I'm a Longhorn fan. I don't want to bring it up too much, but like these preseason ranks and these preseason expectations often fall short. I'm a coach. Defense has the advantage early on in the season, period. So the unders,
I agree.
The more rush attempts, and man, you take the points early. It's just what it is. So I'm with you there. One of my favorite bets this week, which the line's already changed. It was Brock Purdy over under 32.5 pass attempts. And I was like, dude, smash the under. There is no way the 49ers are winning this game if Brock Purdy's throwing the ball 34 times. You want to run the ball 34 times, not throw it that way. You protect your young defense, and then you look at the flip side, like you said. Seattle is going to try, is going to try to protect Sam Darnold. How do you do that? You run the football. You let them get comfortable. You let them play into the pace of the game. You do not put them back there and throw the ball 40 times behind a subpar offensive line. Both teams are going to have the same game plan, Larry. Run the ball, control the game, protect your defense, protect your quarterback, allow things to develop. And so that's where it's going to be. So I'm with you on the under. This is going to be a slow, paced game with the clock moving. I do not expect a lot of plays. I would say maybe 115 total plays off its defense, which is on the low side. That's just the way it starts. That's the way the season always starts in the NFL.
You made a point off the outset, which is that defense is ahead of offense. And I, people say, well, why is that the case? And some people would push back and say that's not the case. Well, defensive football is about energy, effort, and accountability. And you have a lot of energy and you put out a lot of effort usually when you're fresh early in the year. So that's why I think defense is ahead. Offensive football, by comparison, is about precision and timing and reps, field reps, practice reps, film reps, receivers and quarterbacks having discussions about where I like the ball. It's an evolution. It takes time. You see less complicated offense early. You see more complex offense late. I think there's reasons to believe that the defense is always ahead of the offense. Let's talk about Seattle's offense for a second. They were horrible last year running the football. They ran it less than any other team in pro football. I think they threw it 73% of the time. They brought in Clint Kubiak to be the offensive coordinator. They brought him in not because he's an exciting orator, that's for sure. The guy is pretty dull. But you know what? Seattle in this preseason has they've scrapped their old running game. They've really copied the Shanahan 49er run game in a lot of ways, the outside zone. And they've averaged over 5 yards per carry in all 3 preseason games, running it predominantly with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. This is a new point of emphasis for Seattle, trying to juice up their run game. Are the Niners, big point of emphasis for the Niners was shore up the run D. Is the run D, are we going to be talking about the Niners deficient run D in the post game after week 1?
If you are, then the 49ers are going to be 0-1. That has been the one mainstay. If we learned anything from 2024 and that Nick Sorensen horrible experiment was, if this team can't stop the run, you are not going to have success. Because the entire defensive philosophy is a 4-2-5. We're going to under the 7-man in the box. We're going to have 6.5. That's what that nickel corner is. And so we're going to have a light box, but what we're going to do is we're going to have attacking safeties and we're going to have attacking corners. And so even though whenever your pre-snap read says this is a light box, we can run into it, what the 49ers, Robert Saleh and D'Amico Ryans and, the whole idea is we're going to show you something you can run against. Let's see if you can do that consistently. And if you have one bad play during the course of your drive and you fall behind the chains, then you fell into our hands. It's kind of a bend, don't break. We're fine with 4-yard gains. But if you have one negative play, you have one incompletion, you have one sack, one penalty, your drive's done. That's the philosophy of Robert Saleh. and what they do in this 4-2-5. So if the Seattle Seahawks come out of week 1 and say, you know what, we average 5 yards a rush attempt and don't turn the ball over, they're going to win this game. And the way that you stop that is with all of this youth and rotation on the defensive line. It's the youngest defensive tackle room in the NFL the 49ers are putting out there. And maybe Alfred Collins has a bad game. Maybe CJ West does. But they have 6 defensive tackles that they have rostered, plus Evan Anderson, who could be called up. So it's going to be a roll-in waves. I don't expect any of those defensive tackles to get over 30 snaps. Maybe Jordan Elliott or Kalia Davis, that's about it. But you're just rolling out waves and trying to figure out these guys can play and these guys can't. If you could stop the run for the 49ers defense, this game will be over. If they cannot do that, that's where it's going to be, Larry. Like, oh, man, what went wrong week 1? You don't stop the run, it affects everything else. And, you know, they invested. Mikael Williams, run stuffer. Alfred Collins, run stuffer. CJ West, run stuffer. Upton Stout, run stuffer. Nick Martin, run stuffer. All of them are. That's the one thing that they have in common. We're going to find out pretty damn quick.
Yeah. Can the Niners stop the run? Hey, do you have an opinion on Jordan Jefferson? And the reason I ask is, you know, obviously he's one of the newest 49ers. They picked him up at the cut down. They initially waived Evan Anderson, but they got Anderson back on the practice squad. But I'll say this, John, just from looking at this guy at practice, this is one of the biggest, strongest, fastest guys I think I've ever seen. I mean, this is a huge man. He's got to be all of 6'5", 6'6". I would say he's probably, he's got to be close to 320 on this frame, but he's got an awesome first step. I mean, he's got an explosive first step. I know you oftentimes will go to like the Senior Bowl and take a look at the prospects coming out. Did you have a thought on Jefferson in his draft year? What'd you think of that addition?
Yeah, the first thing, whenever you watch, like, you know, watching coaching tape, which is kind of my background, like it's all 22, there's no sound, whatever else. And this came across at the Senior Bowl too. Attitude. Like, this dude plays pissed. He is mad all the time. Every single rep is personal. Practice, Senior Bowl, Florida State, doesn't matter. He ripped
off Phil Haynes, the UConn guard, in the one-on-ones in Mobile. Yeah. I saw film of him. They'd had a one-on-one rep, and he got locked up with the hands in the face up on Haynes, and he just yanked his helmet and hurled it.
Yeah, it's the Avengers, right? Like, what's your secret, Hulk? I'm always angry. Like, that's just who he is. He's just pissed off all the time, and he plays that well. 6'4", 317 whenever he measured at the combine. Huge, like you said, and he fits the mold of what the 49ers did with Alfred Collins and CJ West. They want these bigger defensive tackles. The thing that Jordan Jefferson brings that Collins and CJ West have not shown yet, and again, he's got a year more, maturity in the league and all those things, is that he has the upside in pass rush already with pushing the pocket. Now, this is not going to be your 7-sack defensive tackle, but he is consistent with that first step you brought up, Larry. That dude goes through and collapses the pocket up into the quarterback's lap consistently. We haven't seen that so much from CJ West and Alfred Collins in practice in the preseason games. CJ West dealing with that injury, missed a lot of time. CJ West definitely ahead of Alfred Collins in that area, but Jordan Jefferson's ahead of them both. So you get this run stuffer first and foremost in Jordan Jefferson, but he's got a little bit of that pass rush, seasoning on top of him. That's why they went with him over Evan Anderson. Evan Anderson, great against the run, offers very little in pass rush. So Jordan Jefferson gives you just a little bit more of that versatility getting after the quarterback.
Make sense of last year's stats for me on defense. The Niners on defense last year, it's a very unique stat line. It's not one that you see on a regular basis. The 49ers were a top 10 defense in yards. They were the 8th defense in the NFL last year in total yards allowed. They were 27th in the NFL in points per game allowed. It doesn't take a genius to see that they absolutely died in the red zone. What was their red zone issue? Was it Sorensen? Was it the lack of rush, lack of coverage, lack of coordination? I mean, that is you could watch football for 20 years before you'd see a team that finished 8th in total defense and 27th in points allowed. It's almost hard to believe.
I think that there's a couple issues with what happened to the 2024 defense. Nick Sorensen is foremost in part of that. Not understanding the personnel that you have and matching the coverage to your strengths. Cover one under was Nick Sorensen gave the answers to the test to every single team he played against in quarter one. Every single third down, almost every single red zone package, didn't matter. Cover one under, where you have a single high safety. You're going to let Fred Warner or the other linebacker, who I don't want to bring up, whichever way the back goes, the opposing linebacker is going to float that middle area, right? That 5 to 7 hook to curl in between the tackles area and pass protection. The problem with that is that puts Jair Brown or Devondre Campbell manned up against the tight end or a slot wide receiver, and it just cooked him. It just cooked him. And he didn't do anything to disguise anything ever all season. And so whether it was in the red zone, whether it was bunch trips on 3rd and 16, you just never had the answers from an X's and O's standpoint. Now, it would have been different if you had 2 quality coverage linebackers or 2 quality man coverage safeties, but you didn't have that at any point last year. And so you were just operating at a deficiency game in and game out. And the 49ers were dead last in the NFL, Larry, and fourth quarter scoring allowed. You don't win games. You had to be up 13 points for the 49ers going into every single fourth quarter the entire season. And so to make matters even worse, you led the NFL under Steve Wilks, and I understand Steve Wilks was not the answer either, but in 2023, you led the NFL in fourth quarter scoring, and then you went to dead last. You went first to last in that Wilks to Sorensen transition. Now you bring in Robert Saleh. Yeah, he disguises way better. He sticks to what he believes in. A lot more cover 6, a lot more quarters, a lot more cover 3. Still does some cover 1 under, and he did that with the Jets last year as well. But guess what? You're subbing in D Winners for Campbell, and guess what D Winner's strength is? It's coverage. That's his strength. So now you're marrying the scheme to your players' strengths and their advantages. That's going to be the difference.
Couple more minutes on the Niner D, and then we'll flip the card and talk about the Niner offense against the Seahawks defense. But Yatier Gross-Matos, man, they've allowed this guy to just sit out all summer. He's got this knee, and then he was out of practice yesterday, and it's like, oh, my goodness. What do you expect? I mean, are you a Yatier Gross-Matos fan? Are they giving him too much rope? Should they have cut him loose and set him free and gone a different direction, or should they stay in the Yatier Gross-Matos business and try to squeeze something out of him?
I was pretty shocked, Larry, whenever they chose to keep Gross-Matos over Leonard Floyd. I thought both the salaries were relatively, they're pretty similar, but the dependability and the availability of Leonard Floyd, I thought I would have kept him. I was shocked whenever they cut Leonard Floyd and went with Yatier Gross-Matos. Now, Gross-Matos is younger and he's better against the run than Leonard Floyd. That was the upside there. But the problem is it's the same knee. This knee has been injured 3 separate times in the short 14, 15 months he's been with the Niners. And, I was at a training camp. I know you were there all the time. And you see Yatier Gross-Matos working on the side of the field. And I'm just sitting there thinking like, oh, they're bringing him back. Cuts are great. Speed's great. The lateral ability is great. He looks perfect. But the knee has not responded to tough workouts. And so he goes out there and practices Monday. And I'm like, holy cow, I can't believe this. This is awesome. But then they had the day off Tuesday. And then Wednesday, guess what? Not out there at practice again. One day off wasn't enough. So this tells me a few things. One, I do not expect Yatier Gross-Matos to play week 1. And they did this similar with Talanoa Hufanga, where the 49ers, they kind of value those 8 off of IR pup return spots throughout the season. They didn't want to use one. I don't think we're going to see Yatier Gross-Matos week 1 or week 2. I think it's a target week 3 return for that first home game against the Cardinals, that divisional game. I don't get why they stayed with him. And the fact of the knee injury made it even more likely. But now you're talking, okay, I'm pretty much like a 2% chance he plays week 1. We'll have to see. It's the same knee 3 separate times, and he is just struggling stacking days. I don't know. They want him to be the NASCAR guy. When Robert Saleh goes 3 defensive ends and 1 defensive tackles on those 3rd and long plays, they want him to be that role. Now, Mikael Williams has been taking a lot of snaps there for sure, but they want the rookie to slowly just kind of incorporate and learn. They want Yatier Gross-Matos to be that number 3 slide into the defensive tackle spot and rush. That's what they want him to be. He just can't stay healthy. Best ability is availability, and YGM has not had that at all in his 2 years with the Niners.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why they like him, and he looks good in the uni, and he can play inside, he can play outside, he offers versatility. But as you said, he's got a bum wheel. He's had a bum wheel. The real question going into this game on the defensive side for the Niners is who starts opposite Jason Pinnock at the other safety spot. Do you go with Yatier Brown, the veteran, or do you go with the rookie Marquise Siegel? What do you think? What do you think you would do? What do you think they'll do?
Those are two different things. I would go Marquise Siegel, but not if you're going to start Upton Stout at nickel. I don't want a rookie nickel and a rookie safety next to each other. That's just because the way the rules work, the defensive front, the linebackers and nickel have to make them right on their run fits. And then the safety has to make the cornerbacks or linebackers right on their run fits. I don't want rookie on rookie. I don't want inexperience on inexperience. So I do believe that the correct answer to this is going to be number 27 out there, Yatier Brown. Now, the problem with Yatier Brown is you had a good rookie year, interception, the Super Bowl against Mahomes. Holy cow, this dude's going to be a future team captain. Like, you love it. Nick Sorensen comes in, all progress lost. Now, the problem was, could Yatier Brown reestablish what he did his rookie year? Throughout the preseason, he is not. The missed tackles continue to be there. Looking at the ground, not bringing your arms every single time you got to wrap up. That's the negatives with Yatier Brown. Positives, he's better in pass coverage than the rookie Marquise Siegel. And I think Marquise Siegel left a lot out there that third preseason game where they were comfortable with him maybe earning that starting spot. But his issues in pass coverage just kind of cemented the idea, man, we cannot have this rookie start. Marquise Siegel will eventually win that job. I do believe that. But, man, you're playing against Jackson Smith-Njigba and Cooper Kupp, and both those guys line up in the slot. I do not want Upton Stout and Marquise Siegel out there week one against, JXN, and I just don't want that. And so, I think it's going to be 27, Yatier Brown, and Pinnock as your starting safeties week one.
What weapon do you fear the most here? JSN, Cooper Kupp, the running backs. They do have a nice receiving rookie tight end, Elijah Arroyo, who's really, really good receiver. What's the weapon if you could take one away? Who would you try to take away?
Jackson Smith-Njigba. That dude had 100 receptions, 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. Like, they're fine letting DK Metcalf go because of how much they believe in him. And so if you shut down Jackson Smith-Njigba this game, holy cow, that offense is not going to work. And Cooper Kupp, early on, he always falls off towards the end of the year. He's a gray beard. He's like us. But week one, I think he's going to be spry. He's going to be out there. And they're kind of rotating that slot outside wide receiver job. But, man, if you shut down Jackson Smith-Njigba, who Demo's been talking a lot of trash all offseason. So he's given them all the bulletin board material they want. I can tell you right now, Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be priority one next to that run game for the Kubiak system in the Seattle Seahawks offense.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a volume of touches for sure. In fact, it's interesting too because it will be Demo moving from the slot to outside, going up against JSN, who's moving from the slot to the outside. I guess we'll see who transitions better to being out there on the island. It's going to be a battle. It is going to be an absolute battle. One last one on this. How do you see Kubiak attacking? Do you think it's, go after the rookie Upton Stout with Cooper Kupp? I kind of envision just, hey, you know what? We're going to run it down their freaking throat. We're going to have Sam Darnold throw it 12 to 15 times, and we're just going to pound the run. I think they may try to. They were so bad running the ball last year. I think they're going to try to set this is a new day kind of an approach, and I think it's a run heavy deal for Seattle. But what do you think? Where do you think Kubiak attacks?
Yeah, I think very run centric, no doubt about it. And whenever they get in third and long, man, look for a lot of screens. Kubiak loves screens much more than Shanahan does. And so look to, Elijah Arroyo. Yeah, get some of those, Zach Charbonnet or whatever. Like, so when you're in third and long, and this is a problem of the Robert Saleh defense. This is the problem of the 4-2-5. And when you're pinning back, you're out there in a NASCAR package or whatever, it's the retraceability of your defensive line and hustling to cut off those safeties or cut off those screens. That's the thing that I think we're going to see, because if Sam Darnold starts bad, this game's going to be rough watch for Seattle fans, period. So what do? You kind of limit and just calm down, be the wet blanket approach to Sam Darnold. Don't let him cost you the game early. So very conservative play calling early until the rhythm of the game gets established. But, man, watch those jet sweeps. Watch those wide receiver screens, tight end screens, running back screens on 3rd and long. Because if they can convert those, that's where that energy starts to change. And then you can take some of those play action passes on 1st and 2nd down. Which Sam Darnold, a lot of people don't know. Like, that dude is an athlete. Like, he got offered Pac-12 scholarships for basketball. Now, I don't consider him a quote-unquote dual threat, but, like, he can move. So if you get some of those longer drives and you're not able to rotate in a new defensive line, moving Sam Darnold around can be a positive for that offense. And so you're hoping that the drives don't establish. You're not giving up those 10-play drives, and you're getting them off the field on 3rd and long.
John Chapman with us on Niners Nightly on the UMA guest line. Really good stuff here. And we're going to share the screen because John travels to these games, and you can travel with him if you'd like. Here is your flyer for your Seattle trip. And I'll be probably, partying with you in New Orleans in week 2. Kev and I are headed out there for week 2. But tell people about what you got cooking here, and if they want to travel and some of the things. I see you got Frank Gore is going to be with you for up in Seattle, and you're doing a get together. It looks like Saturday before the game, maybe, or is it Sunday only? No, it's both.
It's
Saturday
both. We
Sunday.
do both. So Saturday from 2 to 6 p.m. up in Seattle, 1 block from the stadium at the press box. We're going to be there for Frank Gore. We do trivia, competitions, giveaways. Kids get it free to all of our events, always. But, yeah, you want to meet Frank Gore. You want to prove that you know more about the Niners than anybody else. We do best dressed. We give away. I bring in 30 autographed jerseys to give away this weekend.
Wow.
The goal is people leave with something. And so provide a safe space in enemy territory to get together. And then we've got a premium all-inclusive tailgate. We're talking unlimited drinks, beers, seltzers, mixed drinks, you name it, you get it. That's going to start off 9 a.m. tailgate. And then we walk to the stadium together, all the faithful together, so everybody's safe and all that stuff. Just go to the TickPick app, download it, it's free, and just type in 49ers Rush, and it pulls up all of our events. Come out, party with us, meet Hall of Famer Frank Gore, have a good time.
Oh, it sounds like it's going to be a great time. Let's talk a little bit about the Niners on the offensive side of the ball now, going up against Seattle's defense. One of the questions is, and this is kind of going to be a weekly question, how many touches are ideal for CMC? How many for B-Rob? I'll just say this, John. Robinson is not a backup. I mean, here's the thing. If you get a backup running back, you can dictate terms to him. But if you get a starting running back, he's going to have a seat at the table. And this guy's a legitimate NFL starting running back. It's not like they can just say, oh, we're going to run CMC all day, all night, and give, Brian Robinson a couple carries. He's going to go, he's going to go AWOL on you. You're going to lose him emotionally, mentally, and it could be really ugly if he doesn't get the rock. So I think this is kind of a really interesting thing to watch. CMC needs to be kind of protected from himself. He will take every carry if you give it to him. The Niners have deferred to him strictly in the past, even though Bobby T's a veteran. Shanahan obviously is a powerful head coach presence, but they've kind of deferred to Christian. Hey, Christian, what do you want? What do you need? Enough of that. It's time for what do we need? What do we want? And I want to see Brian Robinson. To me, I want to see more like a 65-35 split. I don't want to see an 80-20, and I don't want to see what we saw last year, which is 95-5. I don't want to see them run McCaffrey into the ground. To me, the whole purpose of Brian Robinson is to make sure that McCaffrey gets to the playoffs as McCaffrey and not some shadow of himself who's totally injured with 9 different injuries. So give me a good split in this game. Give me a split that you think is workable week to week.
So I think it's going to take some time for Brian Robinson to get that volume. Remember, he just joined the team literally 2 weeks ago. So, he's a veteran. He's played in the NFL system, and, he'll catch on quick. And the running back, that's an easy, adaptable position. But I do think it's going to take time. And I think it's going to be a tale of two halves. It used to always be thunder and lightning. You start with the heavy back. You wear on him. Then you throw the speed guy in there late. The Niners like to do the opposite, where I think you're going to get a heavy Christian McCaffrey early on. You get some long drives, expect Brian Robinson to go in and get a couple touches. But I think that third quarter, they did this with Jordan Mason one time, and it was at Seattle, actually. It was 3 years ago at Seattle, where that third quarter, they came out with Elijah Mitchell, and he ran the ball like crazy straight down Seattle's throat in that third quarter. So yeah, you get the speed functionality of CMC early. You get the third quarter with Brian Robinson. That freshens up Christian McCaffrey for the fourth quarter if it's a close game. So I would say 15 to 20 touches for Christian McCaffrey, and I'm going to say probably 3 to 8 touches this week for Brian Robinson. I would want 15 and 10 split. Like, I want Brian Robinson to be heavily featured, because the game plan that I think is best whenever you don't have so many wide receivers available and you're in a hostile territory, and now weather might even be a factor. It might be some sprinkling, some raining. Dude, do not let Brock Purdy throw in the rain very often. That is a negative. But yeah, I want Brian Robinson involved much more than he will be. Can Shanahan and Bobby Turner allow Christian McCaffrey? You don't even got to take CMC out of the game. Just motion him to wide receiver and let him stock block out there. Like, if you can't get him off the field because he's too valuable, and I get that, use him as a decoy some. You're allowed to do that.
Niners have played all kinds of different roster games with these receivers the last few weeks. I mean, it's dizzying to keep track of it. Kyle has maintained, hey, we're going to have 5 good receivers up for Seattle. My guess is it's Pearsall, Jennings, MVS, Gage, and Sky Moore. The Niners released Russell Gage from the active roster this week, but then signed him back to the practice squad. Expect to activate him for Sunday. They promoted Marquez Valdez-Scantling from the practice squad to the active roster. They also held a workout in the middle of the week for Kendrick Bourne, and they made him a formal offer according to Mayoko, and then he went on to Washington. It came out just in the last day or so that, Bourne is going to definitely sit out week 1, and that he's going to weigh all of his options over the weekend as he's sitting on the couch rooting for receivers to go down with injuries. I mean, let's not pretend that's not part of it. But what do you think? I mean, it sounds like the Niners will be one of the teams that he's considering. If they've made him a formal offer, on some level they feel like he can help them and want him. How would you all these kind of middling veteran receivers from other parts, it's hard to know. It's like, how would you rank Bourne, Valdez-Scantling, Gage, and let's say a Robbie Chosen?
I think Bourne's going to be closer to the bottom. I'd put him ahead of Robbie Chosen, probably on par with Gage. The difference between MVS and why I think MVS is so important is that he has a unique skill set none of those other guys have. That's stretching the field vertically. He's 6'3", runs a 4.3, and the 49ers, whether that's Kubiak, the offense he came from, or it's the 49ers Shanahan, you have to have that vertical field stretcher. Not that you utilize that, but there's clear out routes on every single route concept that Shanahan runs. It's funny because a lot of times when they run those clear out, like the drift concept or whatever else, like that wide receiver doesn't even look back to Brock Purdy. You just inside release the corner and you run straight at the outside shoulder of the safety, and your job is to occupy 2 guys. That opens up all the underneath routes. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is that in spades. There's a reason why he is still playing at this level in the NFL. Now, Kendrick Bourne, Russell Gage, they are your versatility wide receivers that can play all 3 spots. They can run the full route tree. They can block better. They can do all those things. But there is nobody on this 49ers roster that is a vertical field stretcher. That's including Ricky Pearsall, who I love, but you can go back to his Arizona State days. You can go to his Florida days. The only vertical routes he's doing are posts or slot fades. Like, he is not your X wide receiver, stack the corner vertically. You just have never seen that part of his game. It's not that he's slow. That's just not his game. That is the only thing that MVS can do. So that is why MVS is your number 3. That is why he's on the active roster. That's why you swapped him and Russell Gage. Russell Gage is your backup for all 3 wide receiver spots. Any injuries happen, somebody needs a break, Russell Gage can play X, Y, Z, flanker, you name it. He can do it all. Same with Kendrick Bourne. And I don't think Kendrick Bourne's really fully healthy. I think that's kind of a big issue is, if he could play week 1, which is when the 49ers could use him, I don't think that he could. And so he's going to be a couple weeks with that foot injury that's just plagued him for 2 years now. So I'd put him above Chosen and probably on par with Russell Gage, but he doesn't have that vertical stretching ability that MVS has. So that's why I put him behind him.
Yeah, MVS is also a big dude. I mean, seriously, watching him in practice, I mean, he's got to be all of 6'4",
Yeah.
maybe even taller. I think Chosen might be 6'3", 6'4". He's a good inch or so taller than him. So Valdez-Scantling physically, as far as the 4.37 speed or whatever that he still pretty much has, and that great size. I mean, he's always been kind of a favorite. It seems like everybody wants to give him a shot. The receiving room is very interesting. It's very fluid, right? Right now, it's Valdez-Scantling and Pearsall and Jennings and Sky Moore and probably Gage. And then you've got Jordan Watkins. Eventually, he's coming back, and I would imagine he's going to come back, probably sooner rather than later. You got Robbie Chosen on the practice squad if you want him. You got Junior Bergen on the practice squad if you want him. You got Malik Turner on the practice squad if you want him. You also have Brandon Ayuk going to be returning. I would say, it's funny. Jerry Rice came out and said, don't expect much from Ayuk. And I agree. I think I would, if I could shelve Ayuk for the year, I think I would. I think it's probably in his best interest, but I would definitely not bring him back until November. And so he's potentially coming back then. You also have Jacob Cowing, who obviously they love because he didn't do a damn thing all summer and they still put him on the roster, or they put him on the IR and they didn't cut him loose. So I don't know. And then, of course, you got D-Rob on the suspension list. Who is going to be the Niners' number one receiver? And is there a receiver that you're like, you know what? Keep an eye on this guy.
The number one constant is going to be Ricky Pearsall. And that's even if Ayuk comes back. That's even if Juwan Jennings, without the training camp preseason, returns to what he did last year. The Ricky Pearsall to Brock Purdy connection. And here's why I think it's so important. Both of their strengths align perfectly with the other player's strengths. Brock Purdy is at his best getting through progressions quickly and having that interim to short field accuracy. That's what makes Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is quick. 1, 2, 3 progression, could read left to right, right to left, full field. Like, that is what makes Brock Purdy so great. What makes Ricky Pearsall great? Horizontal separation, quick as a flash. Like, that is his thing. And so you have this perfect match, perfect pairing. That's going to be the wide receiver one that is consistent. Now, Juwan Jennings, a month into the season, whenever he gets back to his full self, you're going to have a couple games like you did with the Rams last year. Those are going to happen. But when Ayuk comes back and the month after it takes him to get back to football shape, I think the constant is going to be Ricky Pearsall. And whenever you're having any issues, Demarcus Robinson was the second best player on the offensive side next to George Kittle almost the entire camp. Like, I know some people are going to take claim with that. That dude was quarterback proof because of the suspension. He's taking reps with Carter Bradley, Tanner Mordecai, Mac Jones. It didn't matter who the quarterback was. The best throw every day was to Demarcus Robinson. And remember, he was taking snaps away from Cooper Kupp in the playoff run last year for the Rams. He had more targets, more receiving yards, more snaps than Cooper Kupp did in those playoff games the Rams did last year. So Demarcus Robinson and Ricky Pearsall, I think those are just two constants. Whenever Juwan Jennings gets up to speed, whenever Brandon Ayuk gets up to speed, great. But those two guys, the Niners are going to depend on all year.
I like Demarcus Robinson to potentially be the number one guy. I think Pearsall's got to show me that he can be durable. I think Robinson is a little bit more of a proven entity. Now, Robinson's going to miss the first 3 games, so that's a disadvantage. But I think Robinson might be the number one guy. And I'll say watch out for Jordan Watkins because I've seen enough, man. This guy is whenever he gets off that ankle injury, whenever he gets out there on the field, watch out because Brock Purdy loves to be aggressive. Brock Purdy loves to throw deep, and Brock Purdy loves to throw to the receiver that gets separation. And if that's the same guy, oh my God, he's going to that guy. If they get separation deep, anybody who gets separation deep is going to see the ball. And that's Marcus Robinson is a hell of a player, and he's been great. But I think Jordan Watkins has the separation on the deep ball, and I think Brock Purdy to Jordan Watkins. By the time we roll to Thanksgiving, by the time it's time for Ayuk to come back, I think people are going to be like, wow, Jordan Watkins is really giving the Niners an awful lot. That's my prediction. I thought he was very polished. He played in the SEC. He produced in the SEC. He's got legit 4.37 speed. He's strong enough to beat the jam and get off the line of scrimmage. He's separated down the field. And, man, if you separate down the field, man, Purdy is going to put it on your hands.
My question is, does Shanahan trust him? Because, yeah, the highlights, man, his slant routes, that first preseason game, that dude was breaking corners, ankles, and cutting in front of them with 2 to 3 yards separate. I mean, it's a thing of beauty. And so on those simple read plays, I like. But then you saw the interception late where he adjusted the option off route wrong and led to an interception. Like, I love Jordan Watkins. It's stock up long term. I hate that he missed those last 3 weeks of training camp because that was his time. And he was just, that arrow was up. So now whenever he comes back, he's one of the only players not practicing now. How are those reps going to come? When are they going to trust him as the wide receiver? I think he wins that. I think they want him to be the number 2 returner, punt returner behind Sky Moore. And I think they want him over Isaac Guerendo in that number 2 kickoff return spot too. I am so bullish. And I was against the Jordan Watkins pick from the start. And shout out to you, Larry, because you were 100% on. I just don't know how soon Kyle will trust Jordan Watkins without the reps. I think long-term, year 2, year 3, year 4, I'm so bullish on that kid. He looks so damn good. It's just, how soon is he going to start getting offensive snaps? I don't know. But I hope it's earlier than soon. And I take him over MVS all day, every week.
Couple last ones before we let you go. I saw a stat this week. The 49ers are going to start the NFL's oldest offensive line this year, which is a little surprising because you got Pooney, who's a second-year player, but he's 25. Barch is not old. He's 27, and McKivitz is 29. But Brendel's 32, and Trent is the old guy in the room at 37. How do you feel about this O-line? The Niners love this O-line more, love their O-line more than the fans do, more than PFF does. And I guess the other overarching question is, now that the JJ extension, at least we know what's going to happen. He's got a deal for this year. They're going to keep talking about a long-term deal. Should the Niners extend McKivitz, or should they not?
I think that you try to. Abe Lucas, who you're playing this week, the right tackle for Seattle Seahawks, just got $15.3 million a year in a 3-year extension. Colton McKivitz is way better than him. Like, I don't think anybody disagrees. He's more reliable. He's stayed healthy more. He's better in the run game. He's better in the pat. Like, he's just better. Do you want to pay $20 million a year for Colton McKivitz? Can the 49ers is probably the more logical question there. If he'll take a value deal, awesome. But, man, you saw Jalen Moore go get $15 million a year.
Right.
Now, the problem is, okay, if you don't sign Colton McKivitz, you have not prepared yourself for this. The Niners have not drafted an offensive tackle in 4 consecutive drafts. Only team in the NFL to do so. They have not drafted a center in 11. Marcus Martin, USC center. Do you remember him? That's the last center they drafted. Yeah, he was bad. But, like, dude, like, you want to
should have drafted Willie Lampkin over Junior Bergen in the 7th round, except now he's on the Eagles, the best offensive line in football.
Yeah, they are doing a lot of things right there. But the Niners just do not value. And if their board doesn't fall their way, they just shrug their shoulders and be like, well, we'll find Austin Pleasance, which I do not want Austin Pleasance being the starting right tackle on this scheme. He made the roster, and I think that is awesome. But, like, you don't – Trent Williams, 37. Like, you need not 1 but 2 tackles next year. I wouldn't be shocked if Spencer Burford gets an extension and you kind of make him play right tackle, which I don't want to do. But, like, the Niners have kind of chosen, we're doing value across the offensive line over everything else. Now, Trent Williams is the exception. That's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I get it. But, yeah, you don't draft centers. You don't draft tackles. You only draft guards. This is kind of what you get. The starters are quality, and I don't think it's a, bottom 20 offensive line when you looked at it collectively. But it's the oldest in the NFL, and you don't have guys behind them. You do at guard, Connor Colby, maybe Drew Moss can convert to center eventually, but tackle, good gosh, you might need 2 tackles. Now, the draft next year, pretty solid offensive tackle class, depending on who declares and who doesn't. But, man, how long have we been saying that the Niners should be drafting a tackle? They're the last team in the NFL to draft a tackle. All 32 teams have drafted offensive tackles since then. Is that going to change next year? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is here, Larry. I
think it has to change. I think that, the tackle is now the spot they absolutely have to invest in the first round next year. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what the crop looks like and how it all shakes out come draft day. One last one on the team on the Niners offense, and then we'll get your prediction. Guerendo. Is Guerendo in the doghouse? Do you see a role for Guerendo? He fumbled 3 times. The next day they traded for Brian Robinson. It just seems like he's I don't know. It seems like he's persona non grata. Maybe I'm misreading that. The Niners, of course, would deny that. Oh, we love him. Shanahan was asked about him. He's like, he's competing. But that's also another way of saying that he ain't playing. What do you think? I mean, does Guerendo have a role in this offense? If so, what is it?
I think the role is long-term. I think it's learned. There's 3 issues with Isaac Guerendo. He has the worst vision I've ever seen a running back have, I've ever graded. Literally running into the back of his own players, even in the last preseason game. Like, it's still an issue. Fumbles, that was an issue. Remember, he lost the return job. They had to put Debo back there because he fumbled 3 kickoffs in the first month of the season. And then injuries. Dude's missed so much time. So much time. And so can he prove that he can stay healthy? Now, the good news is, and I was shocked whenever he was out there the second half covering kickoffs and punts in the 3rd preseason game, but he's a damn good special teamer. So, like, let's let him learn. Let's let him be the number 2 kick returner until Jordan Watkins gets back. But, man, he's on every single special teams group, and he's just the reserve running back. Kyle Shanahan has been with the 49ers since 2017. In those 8 seasons, the number 3 running back has gotten substantial, 100-plus carries, 7 out of 8 seasons Shanahan's been here. The only time it didn't happen was 2023 when Christian McCaffrey was healthy the whole year. So Isaac Guerendo's the running back 3, and I know that demotion sucks or whatever else. If you're Guerendo, I get it. You got to prove, because they are still comfortable. Long-term, Brian Robinson's a 1-year thing. That's a 1-year thing. Somebody's got to win that number 2 job, whether it's Jordan James coming back from his finger injury or Isaac Guerendo. Dude, that's the competition. You got to prove you can be counted on and consistent, stay healthy, protect the ball, and work on his vision. And that's something hopefully he can get watching CMC play.
I can't believe it, but they say 53% of the crowd in Seattle are going to be Niner fans at Lumen Field. You travel a lot to road games and see Niner Nation and how the Niner Empire travels. By the way, the Niners won 3 in a row in Seattle. Brock Purdy's never lost in Seattle. If the Niners win on Sunday, it will be 4 wins in a row in Seattle. It's the longest road win streak against Seattle in the Niners-Seahawks series. So go Niners. Hopefully they get 4 in a row. How shocked are you? How shocked will you be if you walk into that stadium and it's more Niner fans than Seahawk fans? This was the 12th man. They fly a flag to celebrate their fans, and the Niner fans are going to outnumber them in their own backyard. I mean, what is going on with Niner fans? Did the Niner fans win the lottery somehow? How come so many Niner fans? How come the Niners are such an incredible road team right now?
Man, I will say this. It's been pretty impressive. I've gone to, I think I've done 60 games in the past 6 years as far as just traveling with this 49ers Road Rush, what we do. And it's growing, man. You know, I've been to Seattle the last 4 times the 49ers have played there. And I remember the first time I went there and it was like, man, there were not that much red. Second time, you're getting comments from the Seattle fans. Man, there's a lot of you guys here. Third year's like, all right, this is getting ridiculous. Now about 50%. Seattle hasn't won a playoff game in 5 seasons. They haven't won a playoff game in 5 seasons. And the 12, let's just be honest. If you know a Seattle Seahawks fan, they started rooting like recently, unless they live in Seattle. Like, they do not have the most loyal fan base. They really, really don't. And so 5 years without a playoff win, and now you got to tell me I got to get excited about Sam Darnold. You traded away DK Metcalf, probably our second best or, first or second best offensive player. I get it. What is there to be excited about? You chased out Pete Carroll, who won us the Super Bowl. What if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan? How do you get excited about not even one of the better Kubiak play callers and Sam Darnold? I get it, man. And another thing too is that Seattle chapter, the 49ers faithful in Seattle, run by Alex, one of the best chapters. They're like 500 plus strong. Well, the last 3 games in Seattle have been Thursdays. So the locals, like, that's hard with work and all that stuff unless you plan a whole trip out. Finally, a Sunday, any Niners fan with a heartbeat and a bank account is going to be there, baby. And it's going to be red and it's going to be loud. I cannot wait.
The final score will be?
Ooh, I haven't done this yet. 49ers are favored by 2. It's a division game on the road, rookies everywhere. I'm going to go Oh, I'm going to go with the weird one. I'm going to go 20-17 49ers win and cover.
You know, it's so funny you say that. I was thinking 21-17. 21-17. Niners with a late touchdown to win on the road. I love the under. I don't know what the total is, if it's a high total or not, but that would be under 21-17. I would imagine is going to go under the number. I say 21-17.
43.5. So
21, yeah. Okay. So yeah. I say go under and Niners to the under. I love it. John, have a great time up in Seattle. Thanks for jumping on KMBR. Tell people if they want to if they want to follow you and they want to connect with you, what's the best way to connect to you? And because maybe they can't travel this weekend for Niners Hawks, but maybe they can make it next week to New Orleans. I'll be in New Orleans. I'll be at John's party. Kev will be there as well. We're fired up. Tell people how they can connect to you.
Yeah, on Twitter is probably where I'm most active, at JL_Chapman. But Instagram, Facebook, we post everything there. 49ers Rush Podcast, wherever you watch and or listen, all of our social media, 49ers Rush Podcast. Come check us out.
That does it for Niners Nightly. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back tomorrow with 49er Forecast. And then, of course, we'll be there on the game day, on the pregame and the postgame. Thanks to John. Thanks to all of you. Have a great night. Thanks for tuning in to Niners Nightly on the Sports Leader.